Good morning, everybody. I hope that you are doing well and welcome to the 360 Entrepreneurial Series. And today we are doing our monthly Saturday self webinar where we are focused as entrepreneurs on evaluating the depth of our ability to love ourselves and really to go back and self parent. Entrepreneurs tend to be some of the most insecure individuals on this planet, and we are our own worst enemy. Many, many times we feel that we are an imposter in our own state of affairs. And so today we're going to talk about how we can overcome those issues and make sure that we are staying focused on better intentions for self. So we're going to get started. Before we do here, I want to encourage you to follow us on your favorite social media platforms. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Rumble channel, find us on Locals, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest as well. And go to our website, 360-entrepreneur.com, and subscribe to our newsletter. All right, well, let's get started because we need to talk about the importance of self-love. And it sounds very elementary. It sounds as if when we talk about self-love for entrepreneurs, it sounds childish. Why do we need to even have this conversation? And that's because what is going on in your mind and what you're saying to yourself and how you treat yourself has direct reflection on what's going to occur around you. There are consequences to your actions. And if your actions are self-hatred, then that is going to affect your business, and not only affect your business, but affect your marriage, affect your ability to parent well, affect your family life, your home life, and also inside yourself, you really become at odds with yourself as well. Well, my name is Darlene Gagnon, and if you don't know me, I am an entrepreneur with 3 businesses, and I am glad to say that I've got a partner in crime, which is my honey, Denny Gagnon. He's a great supporter, great fan. And he's a retired military veteran that came into my businesses 7 years ago and really it's been such a blessing to have him as a partner. And we have gone through some beautiful journeys together. We've gone through some hard times together. But in the end, it's been very, very nice to have a partner that understands the importance of my vision and my passion for business. And I want to share with you some of our life lessons and what we've learned. And, this isn't my first marriage, unfortunately. And I did have a business partnership with my ex-husband, and it wasn't so great. And so taking those lessons and applying them to today has been so critical to the success of us being able to be married and be entrepreneurs together, and also honoring our own selves during that process. So we're going to dive in to this topic, and I want you to pause for a minute and realize that you are not crazy. We have genuine struggles that will never change. And when I am mentoring entrepreneurs and they are in their startup phase, I tell them the problems that you have now are just going to be different problems when your business is growing. So don't think that your struggles are going to go away, but it's all perspective. Is it a struggle or is it an opportunity to learn and grow your muscle as an entrepreneur? Do not look at struggles as interferences or roadblocks. Look at struggles as an opportunity to grow and to become better as an entrepreneur. So when we talk about business challenges, obviously the most common business challenges that entrepreneurs face have to do with financial management. Most entrepreneurs don't truly understand cash flow management. And so they've got issues where they've got high highs and they've got low lows when it comes to financial matters. And we have a tendency to be risk takers and pushing things to the edge. and really not looking at our cash. And so we create our own issues by not being well educated in cash flow management. And then market competition. We sometimes get so focused as entrepreneurs on what our competition is doing and either trying to mimic them or trying to squash them, that we are not creating our own value, our own niche in our own space. And I highly recommend that you take a listen to the audiobook Blue Ocean Strategy. I am very familiar with the competition with our businesses, but for the most part, I tune out that noise and I identify the opportunity with my customers or prospective customers. And from there, I build the business products and services to match the audience that I want to attract, because I don't want to do business with every single company. I have a very specific niche audience that I enjoy doing business with. And with that means that I need to address their needs and not be overly concerned about what is happening competitively. Do I pay attention to what's happening in my industry? Yes. Do I pay attention to the competitions the competition to a point? Yes. But for the most part, I am creating products and services that match an audience that I love and I want to see our company doing business with. And then recruiting and retaining talent. That was one of my biggest lessons as an entrepreneur, and building a capable, dedicated team so that they can work in the business and you can work on the business is critical. You as an entrepreneur need to be on the business, not in it. Now, when you're in startup mode, you will be in the business wearing multiple hats, and that's not a bad thing. And why isn't that a bad thing? It's not a bad thing because you learn all the different positions. So when you hire someone, you can set the standards based on the lessons you have learned. You can create those standards, those boundaries of how you want them to operate in certain areas of your business. And on top of that, they can never BS you and tell you that that's not possible or that can't be done, because you've actually done the work yourself. So obviously in business, these are the kind of the three trends that we see with entrepreneurs in terms of challenges. But traditionally, when I am mentoring a entrepreneur, these are the three areas that we're focused on all the time. And personal challenges, you can't avoid those. It's not just the business challenge. When you are in your business, there are many times when you are wondering what's going on at home. You're knowing that you still need to get that date night on the books. You are worried about the teenager that's in high school and the issues that they might be facing. You want to spend more time with your kids. You want to spend quality time on your vacation and not worried about what's happening in the office. And that is a very hard thing to do as an entrepreneur, defining work-life balance. And then when you are, at home, you're worried about, is the staff doing their work? Did that client project get done? Are the clients going to be okay without you being there? That work-life balance can only be achievable when you focus as an entrepreneur on working on your business and not in your business, and ensuring that there are capable people that can really get in and drive that business where you want it to go without you having to have your hands in every single thing. And again, I say that with a caveat. If you're a startup, traditionally, you're going to be in accounting, you're going to be in marketing, you're going to be in sales, and you're going to be executing the work. That comes with time. The goal is to keep doing the work and then shifting that work off to someone else as revenues allow, doing a different role and then shifting that over to someone else as revenues allow. Okay. So that's how you find that work-life balance. Now, dealing with failure. Failure is a part of the entrepreneurial journey, but it's all perspective. And yes, it's emotionally challenging. Entrepreneurs often face self-doubt and criticisms, both from themselves and others, when their ideas don't plan out, and how you interpret the failure. Was it an opportunity? Was it a lesson learned? Or was it truly a failure? And I don't really believe in failures. I believe that we are testing and trying different strategies in our business and figuring out what works, right? And when you take that mindset and you're communicating it out loud with an attitude of confidence, you will find that the people around you will pick up on that and they will execute it and they will support you in that same tone, that same belief system. Okay, that wasn't a failure. That was just a learning curve. So now we know that that doesn't work. Now we're going to try this and we're going to lay out our best laid plans before we attempt to try whatever it is. And then let's see how it works. And what'll happen is when you uptick your communication with your spouse and say, hey, I'm going to try this. It may work. Here's what I do think will happen, but this is what may happen. They feel like, oh, all right, you did your best laid homework. Let's give it a try. And they're in it with you. When you talk to your leadership and you talk in that same language, they all feel confident in your leadership. Like, all right, we laid out our best plans. Let's move forward and let's take that risk. And then that translates down to the tone of the culture in the business with the staff. They understand, hey guys, you were all part of the contribution of us taking this risk. And we know what the obstacles are, but we're going to give it our best shot and let's see if we can make this happen. And then if it doesn't happen, everybody knows we gave it a good old college try, right? Maintaining your physical and mental health. Let me tell you, I'm an emotional eater. So these are challenges that I have all the time. I am not, those are my weaknesses, right? But I'm always working on it. I'm always doing things, swimming and, watching my food intake and then taking time to do my meditation. These challenges that we are facing as entrepreneurs from a personal standpoint are not necessarily challenges as we define them. They're opportunities to build our muscle. When we go and we lift weights and we're sore because we did chest and tries, that doesn't mean that we did something wrong. That means we did something right. That pain means gain. And it's the same thing when we're feeling those challenges as an entrepreneur. And that impact of those challenges, if we're not managing it properly, they create these dynamic high stress levels. And it can be compounded by childhood trauma that has never been dealt with. If you lived and grew up in an environment where you were always on high alert because you didn't know what was going to happen next, you didn't know if that parent was going to hit you. You didn't know if that parent was going to come home drunk. You didn't know if you were going to have food in your refrigerator. You didn't know if you were going to get another beating. You didn't know if you were going to be sexually molested. I'm talking about high trauma. It puts you on a life path of always being on high alert and waiting for the next shoe to drop. And when you don't deal with that childhood trauma, that high alert status gets passed on to your leadership team. High alert status gets passed on to your employees. It creates this culture of, something's bad's going to happen. Hopefully the company's going to be okay. And you're always working in fire drill mode. You're not working proactively. You're working reactively when you are on high alert status. At home, your kids can feel that tension and they pick up on that tension. And so everything is always in this mode of either being really, really good or really, really bad. There's nothing in the middle. Either life and relationships are really, really good right now, or they're really, really bad. And there's no realistic interpretation that life has ups and downs. And it's okay to kind of go through those waves without feeling that life is over or that you are a failure. So that anxiety and that fear of failure can really be heightened when you've got the demand of running a business, because we know as entrepreneurs, We're not only running a business to grow the sales and take care of the clients, we have the lives of our employees and their livelihoods resting on our shoulders. So if we have our own internal stress and then we've got that weighing on us, that's a lot of bricks that we are carrying on our shoulders on a day-to-day basis. And the other thing is that anxiety is it creates ongoing worry and dread. When you operate in a state of high alert and always worried about the business failing or an employee not doing their job or somebody stealing from you or the staff can't manage unless you're always in the office or you're always in the store location or you're always in the restaurant, you're always worried. You're always operating in this negative constant state of fear, and that has negative ramifications. It creates your inability to focus, your inability to innovate. It really hinders you from seizing on new opportunities because you're so paranoid all the time. You don't trust anyone because you are so full of anxiety that the only way you can feel safe is by controlling every aspect of your business. And if you don't think that controlling doesn't morph into your personal relationships, it most certainly does. And that's why that internal level of anxiety has to be dealt with because it leads to a constant fear of failure. And that's debilitating. It prevents you from really taking necessary risks that need to happen, which means letting go within your business. When you operate in high anxiety, high alert status as a business owner, you don't learn to delegate. You feel like the only way that your business is going to be safe is if you are controlling every aspect of the business. You do the marketing, you approve all accounting, you don't allow for someone else to write the checks to pay the bills and then look at the quarterly reports to see if there are issues. You don't do that. You do it all. You are the number one salesperson and the only salesperson in that company because you believe that if you are not the person selling, no one else can do it. You can't operate your business that way because when you're not in the business is not sustainable. You're not building a business, you're building a hobby. And in your personal life, if you're controlling your children and controlling your marriage to feel safe, eventually those kids get older and they will break away from you and they will always know you as the person that wants to control every aspect, and it creates a gap in that relationship. So these anxieties and fear of failure, they've got implications on your own ability to self-love. And that decreased in productivity when you don't feel confident about yourself, when you don't value yourself because you're overworked, you're exhausted because you're trying to control everything. You don't make great decisions because you're trying to be the salesperson, the marketing person, the finance person. You are trying to be the HR person. It really begins to be a self-fulfilling prophecy because you're self-sabotaging your ability to independently be successful by coaching and leading others to meet your standards. Again, you're working in the business, you're not working on the business. And that creates stunted growth because the ability to be on your business and not in your business requires a lot of self-confidence, a lot of self-love, a lot of self-trust in your ability to train people in the way that they should go, your ability to monitor the situation at a distance, because obviously you're not turning the business over to them. You have to have protocols in place so that you've got balances, checks and balances, right, within your business. But you don't have enough self-confidence that you can do that. that you can hire the right people, that you can train the right people, that you can have a culture of loyalty and a culture of commitment. That is really like putting a mirror up and saying, "You're not worthy. You can't do this. So you better stay in the business and protect every single thing because you're not capable." And that's not a fun way to operate. And in the relationships, on your personal relationships, you end up controlling so much of your business because you're in the business that you don't have time to nurture your relationships. You don't have time to step away and rebuild and rekindle and keep the intimacy between your partner going. And then what happens is you start seeing how they're reflecting their behaviors towards you because they know there's distance there. And then your children as well, that cohesion as a family to see parents that are getting along and loving each other and supporting each other. And that you as an entrepreneur can say, business is here, but family is here. And today I'm focused on the family and only on the family, guys. You've got my complete attention because you are more important than any dollar I can make. Then you create this onset of mental health issues for yourself, for your kids, because you're a self-fulfilling prophecy. You feel guilty because you're not there enough, but yet you are feeling guilty that you're not controlling every aspect of your business and you're failing in both areas. And when I say failing, I mean you don't realize what you could have. You are sacrificing happiness and opportunities for abundance in every aspect of your 360 life. When we talk about the 360 entrepreneur, we're talking about an entrepreneur that has the capability to weave into their relationship with their parents and have quality time and relationship with them, into their relationship with their spouse, having a quality, loving relationship, into the relationship with their children, and creating those unique conversations, those unique memories, moving into your leadership role where you can coach people to become the leaders that they so desperately want to become, and to challenge their skills and grow their skill set, to lead a culture of a business where people are passionate about your business and are willing to put in the time to make it successful, and then giving back to the community through servant leadership. As entrepreneurs, we are going in a complete circle, weaving in and out of these different aspects, including our own relationship with ourselves. And the quality of that moving in and out without there being friction and anger and ugliness comes with our ability to feel good within our own self and love ourselves and see the brilliance of ourselves. And when we see the brilliance of who we are as entrepreneurs, because we are our own breed, we were willing to put it all on the line to start this business. We were willing to take on the lives of our employees and say, you know what? I'm going to help you grow and I'm going to give you an income. And I think that I have the ability to do that. So I'm willing to put it on the line. And guess what, family, I'm willing to not just go get a guaranteed paycheck, which there are no guarantees, but I'm willing to get out there and work hard and build this business. Man, we are our own great creature. And when we can really reflect on our own brilliance, we end up projecting that out to others. It's a powerful exchange of being able to say, I'm brilliant, which means you're brilliant. Because when you say I'm a failure, that possibly means you're a failure. We get what we give, right? And so it's so important that that self-love be fundamentally the foundation by which we build our lives. And God did not create something that is not brilliant. Okay. No matter what your faith is, I really believe that God created us all to come out in this world and be something great. And if you didn't have parents that did not teach you and say to you over and over again, you are the most brilliant existing creature. The possibilities are unlimited in what you are capable of achieving in this world. If you didn't have parents that are that were there for you from the exiting of the womb to where you are now, to say there's nothing you can't do and I'm behind you 100%. If that is not the type of childhood you have, then you must give that to yourself. And that is the concept of self-parenting. And self-parenting for entrepreneurs is a self-care approach, and it involves treating yourself with the same kindness, the same compassion, understanding, grace, and support that a good parent would offer their child. It's about nurturing that inner child that you have. And when you're dealing with stressful situations as a business owner or facing challenges in your personal life that's affecting your business, you need support. And the biggest supporter you need to have is yourself. And so that concept is particularly beneficial for us as entrepreneurs when we've, had childhood trauma or we lacked unconditional love and support in our early years. By practicing self-parenting, you can provide yourself the emotional nourishment that you've probably missed as a child. And you've got to go back to that inner boy or that inner girl and say, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to make sure you sleep well. I'm going to make sure that you look good. I'm going to make sure that during tough times, I'm giving you a hug and saying, you got this. I'm going to make sure that you are not saying bad things to yourself. Can you imagine walking in to a 5-year-old that's saying, you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid? You would say, stop that. You don't talk that way about yourself. Then why do we do that as entrepreneurs? You're a failure. You're a fraud. You're an imposter. Everybody's going to find out that who you really are. You're not successful. You can't do this. You don't know how to hire. You keep making mistakes. You keep running out of money because you don't know what you're doing. You lost that customer. Your marriage ended because of your failure, because you don't know how to commit. You don't know how to have work-life balance. Your kids hate you. You're a bad person and you deserve for them to hate you. What kind of talk is that for yourself? You would never let your child or your grandchild say, I'm stupid, I'm bad, I'm done. You would never do that. So you must not do it to yourself. And guess what? You must not allow others to do it to you, too. That investment in your own personal growth is so critical for you to be able to achieve happiness within your business and love what you're doing while having such a brilliant home life. And I want to encourage you that, yes, it's not just about positive self-talk. It is really retuning your mind, listening to those voices and shutting those voices down and saying, you know what, you're not going to talk to me like that. I am a brilliant individual. I'm a divine creature. I was created for greatness. I have unlimited potential. I have unlimited abundance. This universe can give me anything that I need or want to be successful. And if I ask for it, I know it will come. So I speak it out into the universe, knowing it will come back to me. You are beautiful with your short hair. You are beautiful with your attitude and the way you approach life. You are a great risk taker. You are a great decision maker. You invest in your professional development. You are always learning. You are always growing. You are always trying. You are always making sure that you are stretching yourself and growing. These are the messages that you should be sending from your brain down to your heart and to your spirit. And investing in professional development, there's a great rule: take 3% of your income and make sure that you are vested in your own professional development. And I would say that might even include spiritual development as well, physical health development, 3% should always be budgeted for that for you, and not only for you, but for your spouse and for your children, because teaching your children how to self-parent is equally as important. They will model how you treat yourself. And with that, I want to move into how, the relationship of childhood trauma with self-love issues, how that plays together. Because if we don't understand how it's linked, if we don't understand how childhood trauma and self-love are linked, we can't break that link so that we can move forward in a healthy manner. And so when you had these distressing and disturbing experiences during childhood, such as neglect and abuse, and maybe a loss of a loved one, maybe somebody died close to you, or witnessing violence, whatever that impact was, it really had a severe issue in developing you so that you knew that you had self-worth, and more importantly, that you were safe. And that impact on that self-love, when you don't feel safe, you feel inadequate. You wonder if there's self-blaming that's needed. Did I cause that death? Did I make that person mad so they could hit me? What did I do to cause that person to abuse me? Or what could I have done to fix my parents' marriage? All of those deep-seated belief systems really signal that there's undeserving you are undeserving of love and success, and that's an error in thinking. And that's what creates that imposter syndrome. And we've got excessively high standards for ourselves as it is. But when you've got that childhood trauma creeping in, those standards become almost impossible to achieve because the bar even goes higher. And on top of that, add the fear of failure and rejection, and you are setting yourself up for disaster. So that neglect of self-care and not prioritizing it, that really continues to build the muscle of self-love issues, as opposed to building the muscle of self-love and self-care. And we have to talk about what that really translates into in terms of stopping for a moment and doing some of that self-parenting. Okay, so in your entrepreneurial role, it creates self-compassion. You begin to treat failures as learning opportunities versus personal shortcomings. I was just working on building a new office in another country, and we tried a bunch of stuff. Tried a process for hiring one way, another process for hiring. We used an agency. We used a different type of agency. We did it ourselves, this kind of thing. And we finally figured out what worked for us. And what works for us didn't work for my friend who was trying to do the exact same thing. He's got a whole different strategy on how he goes about hiring talent in another country. That doesn't make me a bad entrepreneur or a stupid entrepreneur. I took some of his initial advice. It didn't work for me. I found what works. That's not a personal shortcoming. That's a learning curve. And in your marriage, self-parenting enhances your communication and your understanding in a marriage. You begin to address their emotional needs, and you can empathize with their feelings. You provide grace to them when they kind of are not being what you need them to be, because you're giving grace to yourself. You are committed to open communication, just like you would be with a child. If a child was pouting and sad and sitting in a corner and not talking, and you had no idea what was going on, you wouldn't walk around ignoring that child. You would go in and lovingly talk to that child and coach them to communicate. That's what you do when you are self-parenting. You're coaching your own self to communicate, and knowing it's okay for me to tell my spouse I did not like when they did this, and this is how it made me feel. And then hearing their point of view and giving them grace if they say, you know what, I made a mistake. Or they may say, you know what, I'm sorry, but you misinterpreted what I did, and getting clarity. And that open lane of communication builds a strong bond between each of you. And when it comes to parenting, when you can practice, I get emotional when I say this, when you can practice self love and self parenting, you are modeling that for your children. And those children will pick up those skills and they will learn those skills to nurture themselves when they are struggling or when they feel inadequate. Because guess what? Life's going to hit them hard and they're going to have to learn how to deal with life and not have a victim mentality. They need to have a strength, gut intuition to say, you know what? I know this isn't right. I know some bad things are happening right now, but I'm going to break through that. And I learned that from my parents. And then obviously that sets the tone for your grandchildren as well. And then from a business standpoint, you recognize your own limitations. I'm a visionary. My husband is operational. He's good for in the now and in the details. And I leverage his strengths for that. And guess what? I've got a vision for where I want to go, and he supports me with those operational standards to get there. That doesn't make him more capable than me, and it doesn't make me more capable than him. We need both. And if he wasn't in the picture, I'd have somebody else that was my COO that was helping me with those aspects. So it helps you to avoid overcoming, overcommitting as well. When you, as an entrepreneur, set unrealistic goals because you're not clear on what your limitations are, then accidents happen, issues occur, and then you beat yourself up for it. But you had no business creating unrealistic goals or unrealistic initiatives when that's not your core capability and you didn't have the right team in place to support that core capability. And then from a leadership standpoint, when you practice great self parenting, you extend that same self compassion and understanding to your own team. And therefore, they translate that down to the team that they are managing as well. And you're building a culture of growth. And I want to be careful here. When I talk about self compassion, I am not talking about operating in victim mode all the time, complaining and whining and not getting over issues and people constantly forgiving bad behavior over and over again. No, there's consequences as an employee, hire slow, fire fast. And same thing when you're raising kids, no victim mode here. We can talk about self-love and self-compassion, but that doesn't mean that there's not autonomy and accountability either. So I want to be careful with that. Yes, we need to utilize self-parenting as this powerful tool to benefit ourselves, our family, our team, and our business. But we have to invest in our own personal growth and our own high level of accountability. Entrepreneurship is not for whiners, and we need to really translate that into the culture of society. We got to stop raising kids that are always about what's in it for me instead of what can I do for the greater good of my life for humanity, and then know in return greatness will come back to me. So I think that's something that we have to be very, very cautious of when we're talking about this idea of self-parenting, because we can get into the woo-woo of self-love and self-care, but we got to be accountable to make some major changes to get there, because it takes work and there are techniques that you have to implement in order to build that strong muscle of self-love. And it takes time. I think it's one of my best friends said to me, whose practices in healthcare. And she said to me, I asked her, what are the biggest struggles with you working with individuals and coaching people and self-care and taking care of their own health and well-being? And she said, people want to lose weight and they've had their weight on for 30 years. And they think that if I don't get it off in 3 months, that's it. But it took them 30 years to get there. And it's not just about quitting the fast food. It's about what's going on inside your head that got you here. And they don't want to deal with that. They just want fast and quick solutions. And that is why I say to you that you can't operate in constant victim mode of, oh, I had childhood trauma. Oh, I had these things happen to me. You have to say, yeah, this happened. But these are the steps and the actions that I'm going to take to overcome so that I don't continue to live in this tormented life that I'm creating for myself. And that comes with self awareness. You've got to acknowledge these feelings, you've got to acknowledge these behaviors, and you may have to do that to your own spouse and your own kids. There was nothing more mortifying than me going to my children and saying, "Hey, I haven't told you, but this is how I grew up. And because I grew up this way, this is why I did what I did. And I know that had a residual effect on you, but I want to back it up and let you know that I'm getting the help that I need." And I spent 10 years in therapy and do occasional checkups as well. So it's really important that self awareness is there. And yes, you need self compassion, but you also need self compassion with tough love. You may need to kick yourself in the butt and say, you know what? I need to treat myself with the same kindness and understanding that I would for a child. But also, I'm not going to let that child take advantage of my heartstrings and act sad and grumpy all the time. At some point in time, we got to pick ourselves up by our bootstraps and march forward and turn off that negative talk and say, stop it, and move into action or getting the help that we need. And if you're not prioritizing self care, if you are not getting professional help to deal with those childhood issues, then you can certainly expect it to keep reoccurring and the issues happening. And you can't whine about it. It is no longer your parents' fault for why you are behaving the way you are behaving. It is no longer the fault of your ex spouse. If you had a child that was rebellious, it's no longer their fault the way you are. You are your own person. The only thing you can control is yourself. And that means that you can self parent yourself, you can self love yourself, you can care for yourself, you can nurture yourself, you can hug yourself, you can love yourself, but you have to be accountable for change. Very important. So let's talk about effective self parenting in business. One, you've got to learn how to deal with failure. Okay. If you launched a product and it didn't perform well, instead of berating yourself or your employees or that kind of thing, you have to say it's okay. Not every venture is going to be successful, and I'm going to analyze what went wrong and I'm going to move on. This strategy is what you want the tone of the culture for your business to be, which is you want your team members to do calculated risk taking to grow the business. But if they've done their homework and it fails, they know that they can still try again, because failure or testing and trialing things, because we don't like to use the word failure, really creates success. Think about the light bulb. Think about the quote that he talked about at how many times he tried. Was it 10,000 times to get the light bulb right? So did that make him a failure? No, because I'm using a ring light right now. Thank you very much for never giving up. And then boundaries with employees and clients, you know, giving that employee chance over chance over chance over chance because you don't want to fire them, or taking on clients that don't really match the type of client you want to do business with. This is kind of abusive. You're letting the employee take advantage of you. You're dealing with clients that have no respect for you because you're just doing business with them because you want the dollar. You're not thinking about the quality of the relationships that you're building. Not good. And that seeking of support as you're in business can come from prioritizing your self-care, getting yourself into Vistage, getting yourself into Entrepreneurs Organization, getting yourself in the National Association of Women Business Owners, looking at YPO or WPO, getting yourself into those organizations or creating a core of entrepreneurs around you that are at your business level and threshold or higher, so that you can have that support you need in business. That's part of practicing self-care, that positive talk, getting therapy to complement what you're doing, maybe getting a business coach. You have to have that as a part of your core support system in self-parenting. When you've got a core support system, they're going to tell you you're not crazy. This is natural what you're going through. And what does that do? It reinforces that you're okay. So again, let's talk about the fact that it's all about accountability, right? If you don't take action in those areas within your business, then it's going to have a spillover of effect into your personal life. And we have to talk about, what does self-parenting do when it looks like your relationships need to see the best of you? Well, in marriage, I'm going to tell you that instead of reacting impulsively or defensively when you get in an argument, you're willing to slow down for a minute, hear their perspective, and then put your perspective in. And you're willing to commit the time. You love yourself so much, you care about yourself so much that you equally know you want that partnership to be there because you want it. You may not need it, but you want it. And you want them to feel it too. You want them to feel your heart and your soul and that spiritual connection. You make time for intimacy. You ensure that you're having sex on a regular basis. You ensure that you are lovingly understanding each other's love languages and filling those tanks up. You are making sure that you are not abusing them by staying in a marriage that you're not happy with and not dealing with finding ways to fix it or to communicate. You love yourself and respect yourself too much to do that to another person. So you're going to work on it, and you're going to work on it until you both can lay your head on your pillow at night and say, we've done everything we can to salvage this marriage before you break your ties. And that becomes powerful because when you see your partner so committed to the relationship as much as you are, you become this real spiritually connected, dynamic team that's working for the greater good of yourselves, for your family, and for your staff and your employees and your community at large. It's a powerful, powerful connection, a powerful feeling. And in parenting, we talked about the fact that when you have self-love, you can reflect and help your child, even as an adult, begin to shift their thinking. When you hear them saying things like, I messed up or I'm worried about this, you can say, you know what? These are all learning opportunities. And you know what? You've got this. You're going to be fine because they see how you're modeling it for yourself. And the biggest thing that I learned as a parent, when I had very low self-esteem and really did not take care of myself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you teach your children to treat you the exact same way. So it's super important that you are not acting in fake confidence. It's my way or the highway. That's fake confidence. That's insecure confidence. That's fear. Those words are fear driven. When you say it's my way or the highway, those are fear driven words. You want to control the situation because you're afraid of the outcome. But when you can say to your children, let's give it a try. Let's see. Let's try it your way. And in the background, you're going, God, I hope it's going to be okay. And you give them the confidence to go out and do certain things, regardless of the consequences, then you're building their own internal self-esteem and self-worth to feel good about their own self. And when you love yourself and you have a mode of respect for yourself, then you play a role of active listening because you are respectful to others. And so when your children, little or adults, come to you and talk, you're really seeing them. You're really hearing them. You're really engaged in conversation. My oldest son, Christopher, and I, he's 34 now. And let me tell you, we have some of the best conversations. I really feel like we're just talking as friends. And those deep conversations are memories that he'll have way after I am gone. And that's a beautiful conversation. I have a grandson named Joey, and he'll have some deep conversations with me when I'm with him. He'll say, Yaya, do you know that I talk to God? And that conversation would never happen if I was a person that really avoided myself and my own well being, and I was superficial and could not put the shield down to build deep connection because I don't have deep connection with my own self. They can feel that. Kids are smart. And when you have self love, you want to be present for your grandchildren. You want to be present for your children. You want to find that family time because you know it's important to you and them because you love yourself. And in your own personal world, let me just tell you, when you address childhood trauma and you find joy again in business and in life, it requires divine patience and compassion, and it takes time. I am still working on things. I think when I'm 60 or 70, I will still be working on things. And that's the beauty of self love. I'm humble enough to know that we are ever evolving creatures and we are creating good for ourselves and others. And we'll be able to create even more good as we deal with these little problems that creep in. And so acknowledge your past. Okay. This is the first step. Acknowledge that you had childhood trauma. Acknowledge the mistakes you made because that childhood trauma drove you to make those mistakes. Acknowledge the fact that you've neglected yourself and your relationships. And you may need to acknowledge that to others. And it's okay if they still reject you. If they say, too bad that you went through all of that. I still don't want to talk to you. I still hate you because you did XYZ. That's okay. You did your part. You leave that in God's hands. You do your part. You do your part. You work on yourself first. You develop yourself. You self-love yourself. And then you put those other people that may not be able to forgive you because you made some mistakes, but you made those mistakes because you didn't know better, or you made those mistakes because childhood trauma and the brokenness inside you drove you to make those mistakes. It doesn't matter. Your job on this earth is to be the best version of yourself that is evolving and evolving and evolving to the greater good of your own self so that it helps others. And that person, that child, that business partner, that ex spouse, whatever, they have to work on their own self. And if you cause some of their pain, they have to go through what you went through. They have to go through their own healing journey. And maybe when they come outside of their own healing journey, they can have empathy for you. I'll tell you, I have empathy for the people in my childhood that hurt me. I don't even have residue of anger towards them anymore. My anger used to be so great 20 years ago. I wonder every day what happened to them that caused them to be the way they were, that I became the victim of their pain. To get to that point, it took a lot of time, and a lot of compassion and a lot of praying as well. And you can get there. And I had to go get professional help to get there. And you've got to celebrate those small wins. If you go and start your journey with professional help and you start one healthy boundary and another healthy boundary, and you work on a lot of different areas, but maybe you still have a few other areas you need to work on, you got to celebrate that. I had to work on a lot of internal stuff. I had to really, really enhance my life and create boundaries around me. Now I'm working on my physical health. I'm not mad at myself because of that. That's just the next step in my journey. I'm okay with that. It's fun. And I will tell you that healing from this, one little baby step that you can take is that self-parenting has to start evaluating itself into your daily routines. So one thing that I would recommend is starting your day off with these morning affirmations or meditations. I am capable. I am deserving. I deserve happiness and I deserve peace. Look at yourself in the mirror in the bathroom and say, I love you, Darlene. I love you, Max. Whatever your name is, I love you. And it'll be hard in the beginning, but eventually it gets really easy. It gets really easy to say, man, you're looking good today, Darlene. Man, that hair looks good. You are capable. You are a winner. There's nothing you can't achieve. When you have meals, try to have one meal where it's very mindful that you're really present with the family, or you're present by yourself, or you're present with your spouse, and schedule breaks. There are many days where I will take a 20-minute power nap. It's just my moment to, so I can get back up and keep going. Figure out your breaks, whether that's exercise, swimming, whatever it is, yoga, meditation, whatever your deal is, find it. Reading, listening to music, listen to audiobook, find it. And then look at an evening reflection. And when you look at an evening reflection, there's many times I lay in bed and say, thank you for my bed. Thank you. I'm not sleeping outside. Thank you so much for that client. Thank you for my husband. Thank you for my grandchild. Find everything you can think of and start speaking it out loud, because you're shifting your mind. You have to remold your mind to stop looking at what is going to happen next. What shoe is going to drop? You got to shift it. And I would say, finally, to overcome this childhood trauma, in order to find that self-love, you got to recognize the signs. I hope some of the things that I shared with you help you to see what some of those signs could be. And reflecting on that past means that you can't linger in it. You cannot linger in what happened a long time ago. There's nothing you can do about it except change and move forward. And that's the biggest part of that healing process. And more importantly, get over victimhood and hatred. Focus on that personal growth. That level of accountability is so critical, because you're going to make mistakes as a parent. You're going to make mistakes as a grandparent. You're going to make mistakes as a business owner. Those are all learning lessons, right? But they have residual effects on that person that's on the other end. And how you deal with your own issues of not being a victim and being accountable for your bad behavior in life. If you made mistakes because of trauma, right? If you were insecure, maybe you were promiscuous. If you were not taught how to have a good marriage, maybe you didn't know how to have a good marriage. If you had parents that were drug addicts, maybe you had an issue with addiction, right? If you hurt people along the way, the best thing you can do is stop being a victim yourself and take pure action, so they can see that, okay, my parent did this or my spouse did this, but I see the action in play. So I need to do the same thing for myself. I can't sit around and wait and pray that this anger and hatred is going to go away. I've got to take action. So a couple of tips I just want to give you in starting this journey of self-love and self-parenting. When you get into crisis mode, when you're like, okay, oh my God, if I start working on my business instead of in my business, what's the worst case scenario that could happen? And then you find solutions to those issues. Well, somebody could steal from you. Okay, so what checks and balances are you going to put in place so that nobody steals from you when you stop doing the accounting and turn it over? I don't know if I can afford an executive assistant to help me. Well, what's the worst case scenario if you hire someone and they're not working out or helping you get more access to time? What's the worst case scenario? If I start telling my children or apologizing to my children, they're not going to respect me. What's the worst case scenario if you tell your children about your childhood, or if you apologize to them for the things that you've done? What if my child never talks to me? What's the worst case scenario if your child never talks to you again? You have to really play these out. And sometimes we're our own worse storyteller. We're telling ourselves stories that are not even really real. And that's why we need to listen to our voices and make sure they're rational. Make sure they're not full of "You're stupid, you're a moron, you're an idiot, you can't do this, they'll never forgive you, of course you deserve to be hated, you really screwed up, nobody will love you again, you'll never find love again, and therefore you deserve zero grace." So, play out your worst case scenarios, look at your voices, hear them, understand them, put them in balance, and one way that this can really be a much easier journey is if you've got a spiritual baseline. And I really find many times that I give some of the responsibility to myself. And there's other times when I say, I can't fix this. This is out of my hands. So I have to give it to you, God. And I need you to take care of this because I can't do it. I've done everything that I can do. And when you know that family is the foundation and you nurture that family because you're nurturing yourself, let me tell you, your business will be unstoppable. You'll be unstoppable. Nothing is more important in this life than family. Nothing. No amount of money. Make sure that marriage remains your priority with your marriage meetings. Make sure your family knows that you're vested in your present. Trust me, these are lessons I've learned from my decades of therapy and from my high successes and my failures as well. I'm here to share that information with you at all times and help you to fast track through issues that I know affect us as entrepreneurs. And I want to tell you, we talked about a couple of resources in this presentation. I want to share a few of those. Blue Ocean Strategy is a great book for really not paying attention to competition and getting in and finding your own niche in a business. And Culture Index and Top Grading are my go-tos for hiring. The Cash Flow Store is a great tool to help you with learning how to manage your cash flow. Because remember, we talked about the big business challenges for entrepreneurship. And then for personal challenges, go to Peter Walker and some of his great books. I love Joe Dispenza and Shifting the Mind, and Marissa Peer does it in such a loving and beautiful fashion in terms of encouraging us to rethink our self-talk. So those are just a few resources that I encourage you to use. Well, guys, we're going to wrap it up. And I just want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your Saturday morning to be with us. Please, again, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on your favorite platforms. We're on Locals, we're on Rumble, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Pinterest, and LinkedIn. So please follow us and make sure that you subscribe to our newsletter. And if you found that this webinar was beneficial, please leave us a Facebook review or a Google review and go to our website and look at our event page. You'll find that we're adding great new resources for learning events on entrepreneurship and business and personal development at all times. Well, thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate you guys being here today. And I send you my love and support as a 360 entrepreneur.